Welcome to Signal, the podcast that raises your frequency. I'm Mory Fontanez, intuition coach.
And I'm Melissa Grushka. Let's get witchy with it.
This month on Signal, we're going spooky.
Spooky.
And today, we're going to talk about witches. Bean, are you ready?
Bean, do I look ready?
You really look ready.
Thank you.
All right, Bean, welcome to spooky season.
Ooh.
We have a treat for our listeners this whole month, actually.
Ooh.
We decided, you know what? It's October. Let's just get right into the spooky. So every episode of Signal this month is going to be about something spooky.
And for all those who can't see what's going on here, I am in full entire head to toe witch gear, and Mory is wearing nothing.
Well, no, I'm wearing clothes.
I mean clothing, but just like looks like a normal person, and I look full on in uniform.
I would like to say what happened this morning when I forgot that we were supposed to dress up for this episode.
Yes.
I showed up 4 minutes late, like I always do. You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And Bean and our producer, Anais, were on the riverside. And when I got on, there was this whole like kerfuffle about Bean's camera being Bean's camera being messed up, which I believed because we're technologically challenged on this podcast, if you haven't been able to tell already, guys. And then suddenly her camera turns on and she's a witch. She's wearing, let me just describe this outfit. Well, anyway, so obviously the camera wasn't broken, but that was the best surprise ever. Okay, so there's a witch hat that has feathers on it and roses, black roses. Interesting. And there's some tulle coming down the side. Almost feels like a witch that is going to some kind of formal
funeral.
Event.
Oh, I was thinking funeral, like in mourning, you know?
Yeah. It's like a gala to me. It's like a witch who's going to gala. And then she's got some beautiful black lipstick that she doesn't have lip liner for. But
just
that's
challenging.
Okay.
It's hard to make it look clean.
Yeah. Your makeup looks great on your eyes. I think that's normal, right? Did you do any witchy things on your eyes, or is that just eyeliner?
I'm wearing black. No, it's black. You can't see. I also tried to incorporate some black blush, which was really just eyeshadow, but it's not coming through.
Wow.
But in real life, you should see. It looks pretty good in real life.
Yeah, I can tell that if I saw you in person, I would really be scared. And then there's a cape. I think it's velvet.
Mm-hmm. And there's a hood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, and it has a hood. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then for some reason, she's wearing a butterfly pin that I think I gave her. Why would I give you a butterfly pin?
I don't know. It's pretty ugly, so I put it on my witch costume. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very ugly.
Look at these witch sleeves.
Oh, she's got these sleeves that come down to a point so that they cover her hand in a sexy witch manner.
I'm a sexy witch.
Anyway, so guys, listen. This episode is going to be about witches, and the way we thought we would do it is, one, I'm going to give a little history of witches through history. How did we even come to know witches? Then witch-story. Wow, you're on a roll.
Thanks.
Then Bean's going to tell me a story of a real-life witch.
Ooh.
And I'm going to tell Bean a story of a real-life witch.
Ooh.
And we're just going to delight you with witch facts and stories today. And you know what? Just come along for the ride. I don't know what to tell you. It's going to be fun.
Hop on this broomstick. Hop on this broomstick. You know what I mean?
Your puns.
It's nonstop. I think I'm sweating in my velvet ground floor length witch gown. Whew, it's hot in this witch outfit.
Wait, before we get into it, should we do cringe delight real quick for the week?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Of course.
How was your week? Cringe delight? Besides the fact that you're in a witch costume and I'm not dressed up.
I'm going to say mostly delight. Honestly, I'm almost delighted that you're not in costume. It makes my costume shine even brighter. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And I feel like I've really committed to this role and you didn't. So you're fired.
Fair.
Thank you. So in addition to this being one of my moments of, what are we calling it? Glimmer?
Cringe delight?
Sunshine? Delight.
Okay. Welcome to the podcast, Bean.
Thanks. It's good to be here. I'd say my delight this week was I took my oldest to her first concert. We saw Pink on Monday night. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't even want to go to Pink. I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll go. And she knocked my socks off. Have you ever seen her
Pink.
perform?
I
Ooh.
haven't, but I can imagine that she would be powerful.
She is one hell of a performer. One. Two, her voice sounds better live than it does on the radio, if that's even possible. You know, normally you go to a concert and you're like, oof, you know, like that doesn't sound like your synthesized voice does on the radio. Her voice was insane live. Perfect.
I can imagine that. And
Yeah.
I want to ask you, are there any like things you're supposed to do at a Pink concert? Like at Beyonce, you're supposed to wear, you know, metallic and there's friendship
No,
bracelets.
I'm
No,
not gonna
we're
lie.
not
It
at
was a
that
lot of
level.
women our age.
Oh, well, that's not surprising, Bean. She's
Yeah.
definitely our gen.
Yeah. I was like, is this a middle-aged women's concert? But it was fun. I went with a friend of mine and her two daughters. One of them
Oh,
is my
cute.
daughter's best friend. And it was just really fun. It was
Did
a
Evie
great
like
show.
her?
She loved her. She screamed.
I
She
bet.
lost her voice. It was just a fun show. She like does all these acrobatics and she flies across the stadium. And it's very cool. It's a show. It's a real
Acrobatics?
show. Oh, tons of them. She does a lot of like aerial yoga vibes. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Hanging, flipping down. Very cool. Her dancers were
Okay.
amazing. Her band was amazing. Her backup singers were insanely beautiful, talented.
Pink fan over here.
I honestly, no joke, I barely even was listening to Pink. And since I've come home, I've listened to her
That's all
on
you listen
repeat.
to.
That's all I listen to. I'm like her number one fan now. Plus,
What's
she's
your
from
favorite?
here.
What's your favorite Pink song?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I really love that song she sings with her daughter. Cover
Oh,
Me
I
in
don't
Sunshine.
know.
Oh, and her daughter
Oh,
came
yeah.
out and
Her
performed
daughter's
with
cute.
her. Yes.
That's cute.
It
I
was
love that.
really lovely. Yeah.
I'm
You?
loving all these moms with their daughters on stage. Beyonce has Blue Ivy out there.
Yes.
It's
And
so cute.
after Pink's daughter sang, Pink kept saying, "My cheeks hurt from smiling so hard." Can you imagine
Oh,
the pride?
yes.
I
Yes.
mean, I can't.
I can't imagine it. I would be
It must
crying.
be.
I don't think I could
Yes,
sing.
totally. That's how I felt.
That's really sweet and so delightful.
Thank you. I thought so myself.
You're still looking at your lipstick.
Well, I keep drinking iced coffee, and I'm worried my lipstick is coming off on the straw. It looks
A
disgusting.
little bit. It is a little. You got a little pink and black going now.
I know, and that's really
It's good.
killing the witch vibe.
I'm a little less scared of you.
How about now?
Bean just did. For those of you who are not watching this on YouTube, she's doing some weird, trying to be scary witch moves.
I'm doing a witch
Which
hand. I feel like
I think that's
everybody.
going to happen a lot.
Don't you
This
feel like
whole episode.
everyone knows what a witch hand is? Like, rawr.
I really like it when you growl.
Rawr.
That's really witch like.
Okay, hit me with yours. Cringe, delight.
Oh, my
I'm looking for a
cringe or
cringe.
delight. I have a cringe, I think.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I tried yesterday to do it all. And
Sure
that did not work well. So I needed to take my daughter to school. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, don't ask me why they do this in our school district. School starts later,
What?
which is really fun for us.
I've
So
never
instead of
heard.
being there at 8:30, she needs to be there at 9:20, which really eats into my session time with my clients. So I reached out to my client who's like really great and I know very understanding. And I was like, hey, I need to push this back 20 minutes. Okay, no problem. By the time my teenage daughter gets ready to roll and we get in the car, we're already a little late, get to school, driving back. I have to get on the Zoom basically from the car and turn off my camera and just be profusely apologetic that I'm late to this session. This client's being so amazing. We're talking. I get to the driveway and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to interrupt this flow. So I'm just going to turn my camera on, sit in the car and do the rest of this coaching session.
Smart.
Mind you, I'm supposed to be the guide here.
You are.
And as I'm sitting there, our two amazing cleaning women come to the front door and I see them walk past the car. I wave at them and they're kind of like hesitating to go into the house. And I'm like, that's so weird. They know the code and they're just still hesitating. So I have to say to my client, hold on a minute. Sorry, I take my phone with me now, mind you.
OMG.
And I'm walking to the door to let the cleaning people in. They're like, no, it's not that. It's the dog. As soon as I open the door, dog jumps on one of them, almost knocks her down. She's very short. I grab Kaya and take her around back, apologizing to the client. Oh my God, so sorry. Sitting now in the backyard with my phone in my hand, coaching, mind you, again. And then Kaya decides, well, wait a minute, I'm stuck back here. There's two new people in there. I want to go play with them. So she finds the doggy door, runs through the doggy door, and is in the house. Literally, you can just hear the cleaning people like screaming. she's running around, which is not funny. And then I'm like, okay, hold on again, client, running in. She's literally, camera in hand. It looks like the Blair Witch Project, running in there, trying to get Kaya settled down, screaming at Kaya, trying to make sure the cleaning people are okay. It just was embarrassing, is what I want to say. This is not my level of professionalism, listeners, but it was super fucking cringy.
This sounds very unlike you.
Right?
Yeah. And I also like how you said that your cleaning woman is short. Like, okay.
Oh, let me say why. Because when my golden retriever goes on her hind legs and is basically at eye level with this person, then it's easier to knock them down than if, she comes up to your chest. That was the only reason I mentioned her height. Anyway. Oh,
I thought you were like blaming her. You're like, maybe you wouldn't have fallen over if you were a little taller.
No, I felt terrible. I was like, these women are here to like help us out. Yeah. Man, Kaya, help them help us.
You're like, live in fear now. Clean in fear, please.
Yeah. So
that's anyway, what a witch would do.
Ooh. This is going to happen all episode.
I need a new spooky sound. What's a spookier sound than
ooh? Okay, hold on. Let's just insert one here. Go. Okay. Our beautiful editors will do it. Ooh, that was a good one.
Ooh, frightening.
Okay. Spooky. Well, anyway, now that we've told each other about our week, should we do this?
Everyone has stopped listening.
Let's get started. If you're still here, hey, 3 people that are still here who are my and Melissa's friends, thank you for sticking through that first part. And also, if you're still here, before we start telling you about our amazing witches and give you something spooky to go into October with, if you're listening and you want to support the show, we do really, really appreciate any time you leave a like or a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you're listening. And if you could share this show, you don't have to share this episode if for some reason you're embarrassed by the fact that you listen, given what's happened so far. But I promise the rest of this episode is going to be really good. But if you could share the podcast with your friends, that would make us so happy. And then Melissa won't put a curse on you.
And honestly, hop over to YouTube and check out my costume. Why don't you check out Signal with Melissa and Mory, with Mory and Melissa, on YouTube so you can see this full head to toe beauty that I have.
True. You know what else you could see if you watch this on YouTube?
What?
It actually is lining up so perfectly, but if you point to it, like our matching Prince ducks are really best friends right now. And it's really cute.
I should have put a witch's hat. We should have put witches' hats on them.
Next episode. Okay. Let's dress them up next episode.
So
all right. I think we've dilly-dallied enough.
Okay.
Bean,
agreed.
I think that you're going to really love to hear the history of witches. That's what I think. And I am not just saying that because I love history so much. I actually think this is really fascinating. So, stop me if it's getting boring, but I'm going to try really hard. It's going to be like laughably fast how quickly I'm going to go through hundreds of years of history.
Why?
So, because, this isn't a history podcast and I don't think we have the time to spend an hour on witches, and there's a lot of details.
I got all the time. Let's do this for like a few hours. See where it goes.
And in hour 3, Melissa will tell me about a famous witch in history.
And then I will test several spooky sounds.
Okay. Right. Ready?
Yeah.
Bean, how far back do you think the concept of witches goes in our history?
I'd say really far. I'd say as far back as time goes. Like there were some I feel like I've often referenced dinosaurs on this podcast, but I'm now thinking of a T-Rex over a cauldron.
Oh.
Although we're doing some real stereotypical, even my costume is very stereotypical witchery.
I'm going to tell you where the cauldron comes from.
Please do. Hit me with it. Stop quizzing me.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, because the earliest written record of witches is actually not during the Paleozoic era, as you guessed, but it's the first written record of a witch is between 931 BC and 721 BC. And it's in the Bible. And I wrote next to that, surprise. Big surprise.
Well, if it's in the Bible, it has to be real.
Yeah, then it's fact. But the fact that it's in the Bible, we just know where this is going to go. But Correct. That's the first mention of a witch. That is a story that's told in the Bible of when King Saul sought the witch of Endor is her
King
name.
Saul?
Isn't that
Is he a Jew?
King Saul? Yeah,
I'm a
everyone's
Jew.
a
I
Jew
can
in the
say
Old
that.
Testament.
Oh,
What?
right.
Don't you know this? You're a Jew.
Sorry. Yes.
Wow. It's
Wow.
the story of Jews.
Right. Obviously.
Okay, so King Saul basically goes out to look for the Witch of Endor, which I thought was such a Game of Thrones type of name for the witch. She's a badass. She's really like,
Yeah.
she's got the spells. She knows how to
Get
solve
it.
biblical issues. Okay, so he goes to find her to summon the dead prophet Samuel.
Ooh.
Why?
Ooh.
Why do you ask?
Wait,
Because
can I just interject?
of course.
My dad has 2 cousins who are brothers named Saul and Sam.
I wonder where that came from. Is it coming full circle for you now?
I see.
You just learned so much about your own religion thanks to our witch
we
episode.
should just cut that out. Yeah, go.
Okay, well, thanks for that information.
Mhm.
So she goes to summon.
Spooky.
He wants her to summon this dead prophet Samuel because he wants to defeat the Philistine army. So he believes that this prophet is going to help him to do that. This is King Saul. So the witch brings old Samuel out, conjures him up, and then Samuel prophesizes that Saul and his son are actually going to die.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
Not
next
what
time
he was
you want
hoping for.
Right. And next time you want to summon a dead spirit, be careful what it's going to tell you is going to happen to yourself.
He was like, never mind.
Right. But here he is now. He's pissed because he's been awoken from an eternity of sleep. And he's like, listen, you're dead. Your son's out. So the next day, according to the Bible, Saul's son died in a battle, and then bereft and full of grief, Saul offs himself. That is the first ever story of a witch. All right. So let's fast forward a little bit now into time. So witches in history really come from the notion of paganism. Do you know what paganism is?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think it is?
Like white people, religion.
Paganism?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Actually, paganism is a term.
Did you just make me, are you about to make me sound real stupid?
No, why would you know this?
Go.
It's okay.
Like we reference paganism often in even today's culture.
Witches are associated with paganism because paganism is a term that was first used in the 4th century. So now we're fast forwarding 300 AD by early Christians for people who are in the Roman Empire who are practicing polytheism, which means that you worship more than one god, or get this, ethnic religions other than Judaism. The note I wrote for myself is, so basically anything that is not a norm is not Christian.
Right.
Basically. So paganism means that. But it's also defined as a person who worships many gods and goddesses or earth and nature. And this is really important.
I'm a pagan then. I love earth and nature.
See, when you understand it, you're like, but they were onto something. So the worship of earth included a lot of herbal healing modalities.
Love.
Right? So you're going out into nature, you're understanding how herbs and mushrooms and all the flora are there to actually help heal us.
Love.
So these people become healers because they have a good understanding of herbal medicine. And they're also beginning to be known then at this time as wise women. Are you tracking so far? So they're herbalists, they're healers, they're wise women.
2 things. Are you you tracking, you dummy who doesn't know about pagans? Are you tracking this?
All right, but this is where this starts to go south because imagine that you are a
beautiful healer.
Imagine that you want to spread a religion that is all about worshiping one god that is patriarchal. Here we go.
Oh,
here's the patriarchy.
Insert the rant.
Exactly. And all of a sudden, wise women who hold wisdom from other places outside of these texts that you want people to read and follow and believe.
I see where this is going.
Are deeply dangerous. So we start to see, if you fast forward into like the medieval time. So now we're talking the 1200s and the 1300s.
It's fun.
This real paranoia about witchcraft spreading across Europe. But actually, in doing my research, what I learned is that it wasn't just in Europe. There was cultures in Africa and the Middle East that also show, and Asia, a real focus on witchcraft around this time. So it's really starting to become, as organized religions are really taking hold. I'm sorry.
Like, sorry, I just had to interject. You mean they're anti-witchcraft or they're just discussing
Anti.
witches? Ugh,
No,
of
everyone is
course.
starting to get really
They want
scared.
one God only. Yeah,
Correct.
got it.
Yeah.
Got
So it kind of turns into this mania and it spreads
it.
across, a lot of people say Europe, but we're finding around the world. Let's talk about witchcraft for a minute, what it means. So, witchcraft is defined as the use of magic or supernatural powers to inflict harm or misfortune on others. And witchcraft also has been synonymous with another word, the occult.
Yes.
Okay, so the occult is an extra layer of supernatural beliefs, practices that fall outside of organized religion and science.
I thought they were sort of interchangeable. Is that incorrect? Like occult and
Well,
witchcraft?
they are starting to become interchangeable at this point in
Okay.
history. So I just had to make a little note to myself when I was reading this about the occult being dark arts that is obviously people are fearing because people believe in supernatural things and practices. And I wrote, so a man resurrecting after being dead for 3 days is okay? Question mark.
That's cool.
Right? Jesus being resurrected, not the occult, but anything
Yeah.
else, occult. So anyways, any other kind of otherworldly powers like being psychic, mysticism, creating spells, which are tied to using herbs for healing, start to be seen as being in the occult. So now we're going to fast forward 1200 to 1300s. Let's remember also, there are no doctors during this time,
Ugh,
right?
silly gooses.
The medical field did not become what we know of it today until the late 1800s. So we're still like centuries away from understanding medicine.
And we're
So
really, I'm sorry, we're really using these healers primarily, correct?
exactly. Perfect. Spot on. So these healers are really becoming more and more powerful, these medicine women. And they are really starting to become midwives
Ooh.
in addition to herbalists. So a lot of childbirth is done through midwifery because there are no doctors, gynecologists, and they are kind of growing in their power and in being healers. So what you start to see again is this fear of the power of these women by organized religion. And that's when you start to see accusations of witchcraft flying around here right around 1300s.
Pun
And
intended.
oh, good one. On brooms.
Flying around on broomsticks.
Right. So really it starts from representatives of the Christian church accusing these women who are herbalists, healers, brewers. They also brewed alcohol.
Oh.
These brewers and healers, because they're performing such essential services. Now, if you go back to the brewing, that's where you start to get the image of the cauldron. The cauldron is also
It was for beer?
it was for brewing different kinds of, yes, drinks.
Ooh,
So
concoctions.
And if you look at so that's one origin of the cauldron. The other is that it comes from also the mortar and pestle in like Eastern European religions, like Lithuanian cultures talk about the mortar and the pestle being what witches use to actually fly around. The mortar, is that the bowl part?
Mortar. And
Mortar?
Pestle.
Pestle?
No. Isn't mortar, is it the bowl or is it what's in
the bowl?
Yeah,
I think
the pestle
the more
is the stick.
Grinding thing. So there's some witch stories in this medieval time coming from Eastern Europe that actually have witches like Yaba
Yabba
Baba.
Baba.
Yeah,
Yabba Baba.
Yaba Baba is a witch
that her name?
story from Eastern Europe from this time. And she is said to fly around in a mortar using the pestle as her like steering wheel, like as the way to.
Is she teeny tiny?
No,
They're
no,
not
it's
that
like
big.
a mat. No, it's
I'm
a
looking
giant.
up Yabba Baba to make sure we're right.
Okay.
Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga.
I knew we were a little off, and I wanted
glad.
to be very correct here.
I'm
Baba
so glad
Yaga.
you looked that up. So
Thank
Baba
you.
Yaga is a good example of like a mystical tale of witchcraft from this time. And she is said to have flown around in her mortar and using the pestle as a way to drive this vehicle. So anyway, that's where the cauldron comes from. But this is something that's really important to think about. So you and I are reading this book right now, On Our Best Behavior by Elise Loehnen.
I am really enjoying it. Side note.
We're going to try to get her on this show. Fingers crossed.
That's
anyway. Not spooky. But she makes this really great point about how if you look at the broom and you look at the cauldron, it's really about household items that women would have been using to take care of whatever they're taking care of in their household chores. And so, that is just such a good indicator of how villainized women and being a woman has been in history.
I didn't get that far yet. I didn't see any part about witches yet.
That was in the intro.
No. I'm past that part.
Okay.
You were like, that was on the first page.
That was page 1. So anyway, let's go. So fast forward, representatives from the Christian church are starting to make these accusations. We're going to go right into the 1400s. This is where witch hysteria took over Europe. Accusations of witchcraft were flying everywhere. And most of the people, again, most of the people accused were either burned at the stake or hung. So clearly there's not really, there's these sham trials to try and, prove that this person was a witch. Well, we're going to talk about in the story I tell you, because there's a trial in that story that's fascinating. But a lot of the targets of these accusations were single women, widows, and other women at the margins of society.
That is so fucked up.
But what is it about that group that you think makes them
vulnerable?
A target? Yeah.
I don't know, that they believe, and people still often believe today, that a woman's value is found in her partner and who she takes on to support her.
Ding, ding, ding. Oh. Exactly. So a woman that's not tied to a man in some way is either a drain on resources, because then others have to, quote unquote, take care of her.
Right.
Or she's potentially too powerful. And that's also not good.
Why? But says who?
Says the Christian church.
Says the white man.
Says the white man.
I feel like we're going to get death threats after this episode.
What's new? Bring them on. So what's interesting is that during this time, by the way, really quickly, there's a book that's published called Malleus Maleficarum. I think I said that wrong.
Very Harry Potter.
Y'all don't get mad at me. It's written by 2 German Dominicans. So by Dominican, we mean religiously. And it's a guide on how to hunt witches. This I thought was fascinating. For more than 100 years, this book sold more copies than any other book beside the Bible.
No way.
Yeah.
I guess
a guide on
anything to do. So they were like, let's just hunt the wenches.
Let's just hunt these wenches. Exactly. More
witches.
Copies than the Bible.
Fun fact.
So now you have the hysteria and the fear. Let's also remember that these times, the 1200s, 1300s, 1400s, were like awful times in history. People are dying of plagues. Yeah. There are crazy events happening around the world. There's, natural events happening that people can't explain. And so this is just adding to the paranoia, and there needs to be a culprit. And so a lot of time, these women were the culprit.
Isn't it almost sound like right now how so many things are happening in the world, and they are using certain communities as targets of trying to make them examples of why this world is upside down right now?
1000%. You know what? You say that, and I just have to go into my rant of why I love history so much.
Okay.
I feel like if everyone understood history, we'd stop repeating the same fucking mistakes over and over again.
I mean, I'd like to think that, and I'd love to get on board with that, but we do understand there are a lot of people who do understand history and still make the same fucking mistakes.
Or they're not mistakes to them. It's like just the way it needs to be.
Correct.
This is the playbook.
Correct.
We're still under the same, okay, guys, PSA. We're still under the same playbook that was used in the 1200s. Okay?
I'm bored. I'm bored with it.
I'm bored with that book. Everyone just be aware. Shall we get back to our witches, our sister witches?
Please. Sorry. Yes.
I want to tell you about your heritage over there. Okay. So between 1500 and 1660, 80,000 suspected witches were put to death in Europe.
80,000? It's a
80,000
genocide. That's crazy. Right?
80% of which were women.
Oh, but others were men?
There was some men that were
Wow.
associated to these witches, yes,
Got
and
it.
some children, unfortunately. I know. And then, of course, the most famous thing that you guys probably know about the witches is the Salem witch trials.
Ooh.
That as this kind of hysteria was happening in Europe, it kind of started to die down, but it then spread over to the New World. Something that's really interesting to remember is that the people who left England were Protestants, and they had left England to come to the colonies because they felt like England wasn't righteous enough, that it was going in a direction that didn't feel pure enough.
Oh.
And so they came here really with deeply puritanical beliefs. So we're really primed in the colonies for witch hysteria
Absolutely.
because there is such a fear of the dark arts and what's happening. Now, same deal here. Think about being in the colonies. There's wars between the French and the British. A smallpox epidemic is going on. And then
Woof.
there's these ongoing fearful attacks of neighboring Native American tribes. So here we are again in this kind of fear-based hysteria. Who's the best scapegoat for this tense atmosphere? Women who fall outside of the margins of society. And so this happens in 1692 in Massachusetts. The witch trials started when a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old, their names are Elizabeth Parris and Abigail Williams, start suffering from fits, body contortions, and uncontrolled screaming.
Oh, no. What do you think it really was?
They know what it really was now.
Oh.
They say that now they believe they were poisoned by a fungus that causes spasms and delusions.
Oh, poor kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they
So
were like,
this is
witches.
Witches to blame. So as this is spreading, so as more young women start to kind of exhibit these symptoms, the hysteria just really inflames.
Ramps up.
And 3 women specific. Yeah.
You are using so much terminology that is apropos of this topic. Go.
You're welcome. I really, I'm glad. I like when I give you a good pun to giggle at.
Thanks.
So 3 women were accused of witchcraft. Sarah Good. That's kind of.
Can I interject?
ironic. Do you have an aunt? Is your dad's wife's brother's name Sarah Good?
Closer. No.
Okay.
My wonderful Uncle Ralph, who you did know, who passed away a few years ago, was a direct descendant of Sarah Good.
What?
I looked her up to see if I could do her as my witch, but I couldn't get enough info on her.
Wait a minute. Mm-hmm. This is breaking news.
It was his aunt, like one of his further up aunts. He is from...
Great.
Yeah. Yes.
Wait,
Exciting
was there
news.
what did he, did you ever talk to him about it?
I didn't, but I believe my parents have.
And what do they tell you? What did he ever say?
Not much. I didn't even ask them about it. Although when I told my mother we were doing this, she said, Ralph's aunt was Sarah Good.
That is crazy.
I know.
Wow. All right. Well, then we're going to dedicate this episode to the memory of Sarah Good.
Right. I love that. And my Uncle Ralph. Love you, Uncle Ralph.
And your Uncle Ralph. Yes.
Thanks.
Well, Sarah Good, who now we know is a friend of the podcast. Sarah Osborne and Tituba. Tituba is an enslaved woman that's owned by Paris's father.
I know her well.
You know her too?
Well,
are you related?
No, she was going to be my other choice. It was between her and the witch I chose. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, so Tituba is the one who confesses to being a witch, and then began accusing others of using black magic. Let's just stop here for a minute and talk about these confessions. I just want
forced confessions, if you know what I mean.
To really put into context how these confessions are being dragged out of these women. They are arrested. They are put in basically solitary confinement, and they are tortured. Their hair is shaved off their bodies. They're being kind of pulled from limb to limb, they are being tortured basically.
Yeah,
so
100%.
It's once the pain gets to a certain place, then these women kind of break and decide they're going to point to other women, because that's how these people are saying they will stop the torture, is if they confess and they include other women in their witchcraft.
Snitches get ditches, witches. You know what I mean?
Anyway, so on June 10th, Bridget Bishop became the first accused witch to be put to death during the Salem witch trials, and she was hanged at the Salem gallows. Ultimately, 150 people were accused, 18 were put to death. 6 men were also convicted and executed in that number. And then, Salem, Massachusetts isn't the only place that is dealing with this. From there, you start to see these same witch trials happening in Windsor, Connecticut in 1640. And then it kind of spreads down to Virginia in the 1655 era. And then it starts to die out by the 1700s.
Wow.
Depressing.
Wow. That's wild. And then that's it. Everybody's like, it's cool if you're a witch after that.
Well, let's talk about that. How many witches do you know?
I mean, real witches? I don't know. I will say, while I was researching, I did find there is a witch. I don't know if she's currently alive. She's in her 90s and she like has a store and she's a practicing witch. That would be probably the only one I know. But it's not even about knowing. It's about, my curiosity was about the hunting of the witches. Are you saying that it would still exist? So any witch that would be practicing is doing it quietly?
Well, for a long time, it just became very clear to women, to healers, to wise women. This is why I talk about how systems have convinced us that intuition is dangerous.
Totally.
Think about hundreds and hundreds of years of torture of women. No better sign to say, hey, you know what? If you have a knowing that you can't explain, shut the hell up about it.
Or we're going to light you on fire.
Exactly. So hundreds of years of really women kind of going into a place of deep hiding and shame. And I think we're just coming out of that, honestly, hopefully. I don't know. More books like On Our Best Behavior, please. But we are seeing a rise of Wiccans, of pagan religion, and of witches really talking about what it is to be a modern day witch. There's a lot of articles. There was one on Cosmo, actually, on I'm a modern day witch and here's how I practice. And she talks about how she comes from a long line of witches, that she's traced her own genealogy back to Salem. And really, I think modern day witches talk about, one, respecting paganism, the earth, flora, and fauna. They talk about spells being ways, basically, spells and manifestation. Are the same thing. I just think that spells have more rituals attached to them,
which is kind of nice to have to manifest with some type of act. I think, right?
100%.
Like there enforces it.
Yeah, there was that blue moon the last month or 2 months ago. It was huge, and my daughter's friend was here, and I was like, "Wait a minute! I feel like I know you're supposed to do something." And I looked it up, and it was like, "Yeah, you're supposed to light. You're supposed to light a white candle." Write your desires on a piece of paper, burn it with the candle, and then be like something like, "So it will be," or there was some saying we had to say. And I called the kids over and TJ, and we stood around the kitchen and we did it. And I thought, oh, we're doing a spell.
Yeah. And I kind of love that anyway. I mean, I love the moon. There's a lot of moonage in my house. I'm just very into the moon.
We do love moons.
Okay.
That's my witch story, Bean. That's the history of witches.
Thank you. That was really enlightening.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think of a more punny word.
Oh, it'll come to you.
I hope we're not making light of witches. Even though I'm dressed like an asshole.
You are not. You look like the most powerful witch in all of Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so do you want me to hit you with my witch?
I'm so ready for you to tell me a story of a witch. I'm so excited. I really don't know who you picked, and I can't wait. So yeah,
she's super spicy, and I'm very into her. I'm going to let me introduce you to Marie Laveau, who is
I know Marie Laveau.
Oh, well, she's pretty famous.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited. No, I don't know a lot about her life. I just know enough. I'm down. I'm ready. I'm super excited.
Oh, great. So if you do know her, she is the voodoo queen of New Orleans, which I love New Orleans. So I was down with this from the beginning. Let me give you a little background, okay? She was born a free woman of color in New Orleans in 1794. She was, though, of mixed racial heritage, African, Native American, and European. It's a very interesting combo, don't you think?
No, I think that's probably really common because a lot of forced acts of mating occurred. at that
Oh,
time. But being
forced
born a
conception.
free
Woman of color,
woman of
right?
color in the 1700s is really notable.
Wait, and then get this, she marries a free man of color named Jacques
Oh,
Paris or Paris. I don't know. I'm just very French. So I'm going to call
we
him
know.
Jacques Paris. But he died less than 2 years, I think, after they were married under mysterious circumstances or something that added to the air of, well, it sort of started the air of mystery surrounding Marie Laveau.
Oh no. I'm just
Mm,
going to tell you right now, the
what?
worst thing to happen to a woman at that
Oh,
time was to
the
have the
husband.
husband die of mysterious
Right.
circumstances.
But
Not
wait,
cute for you.
it's not a good look for her, but
Not a
honestly,
good look.
it sets her up for to become the voodoo queen,
Oh,
right?
okay. Then we'll
So
take it.
she has these two little kids and she's like, I got to take care of these kids. You know what I mean? So she starts as a hairdresser and
Oh,
she is doing hair for like all these rich white and Creole women. And they're all coming in and she's like slowly gathering little tidbits of information about the town, about other people. And then so she's like already has a little edge because she knows what's up. You know how you talk to your hairdresser about like everything, everybody does.
totally.
So she has all these really wealthy women coming in and talking to her about kind of the neighborhood and what's going on. So she starts to get a sense. And then she also sort of starts interacting with there are all these other free women of color. And she starts to learn from them and they're teaching her about herbs and charms and all of these things that we were just discussing when you shared your history. So she's learning that and she's getting all this gossip and she's got it all going on. So she starts offering out of her home. So a few years after she starts doing hair, she starts offering out of her home like these occult services because she feels like she
Wait,
has her finger on the pulse.
excuse
What?
me.
Yeah.
How did we jump from getting all the gossip to occult services?
Well, it was sort of like it gave her a knowing about the society she was in, right?
Oh,
And she knows
okay.
what's up. So it's not totally like magic. That aspect of her is not total magic, but it gives her a really solid background of the people she's going to be interacting with, right?
So
Like it gives her an understanding.
what's on this menu of occult services? I'm
She does lots
curious.
of things. She's like
Oh.
healing, she'll do psychic insights, things like that, which some
Mm.
were true and some were like just because she had this knowledge. I'll get there. I'll get there. Girl,
Okay,
slow
sorry.
down. Slow
All right,
down. My
sorry,
God.
sorry. I'm too excited
My
about
witch.
Miss
Uh,
Laveau.
um, so she starts offering it. And then as she's doing this, she starts training in voodoo as well. And then
Right.
by 1830, she's like this badass voodoo priestess, and everyone's coming to her. She like all walks of life are coming to her, rich people, poor people, black people, white people, everyone, because she's made this huge name for herself as being this like badass voodoo priestess, right? Love it. Love
Okay.
her.
Yeah.
Right.
Love this
So
for
they're all
her.
coming and she's doing all these things, including making gris bags. Do you know what those are? Spooky
No.
moment. Me either. And honestly, kind of
Tell
adorbs.
me.
They're like, don't ignore my paper shuffling. They're
That just
like
means
these
that you
little,
have lots of good
I
notes.
do. They are like these little bags, these cloth bags that serve all different purposes. They're filled with like herbs and sometimes bones and hair and
Oh,
all. Some can be for healing or protection. It's like an amulet, but it's like a little bag. So she's like
wait,
making, yeah, I'm
Bean.
going to make you
Let's
one.
make our own bags for this spooky month of spooky season.
Do you think I haven't already
Okay.
thought of it?
Wait. Let's
What?
make each other one that we
Ooh.
think matches the other person, and
But what
then
it has to have a purpose.
send
Like,
it.
do you need it
Yeah, yeah,
for what you have
yeah.
to like say what you need it for, like protection
Okay.
or love or luck?
Let's make the bag. Let's infuse it with an intention for our bean.
I
Let's
love
write the
it.
intention down and then with the bag send it. And then we can
Okay.
tell everyone. Wait, we got to do
Spooky.
this by the time we get to maybe episode 4 of October so we can.
That's a
Yikes.
lot of pressure, but I'll
Run
do
out
it.
and make the gris today.
Oh, I just came up with a great idea.
Wow.
Make your gris
Overachiever.
today. I mean, underachiever. Look at my outfit and look at your lack thereof. Anyway,
I am an underachiever today. You don't have to shame me.
Can I get back?
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes, sorry.
So she's using like she's actually she's a very religious Catholic. She goes to church every single day, but she doesn't only practice Catholicism in her offerings. She sort of mixes it with like African folk magic and spiritualism. And then she starts doing like all these rituals to heighten her image. And because she's kind of like a witch. So she's doing like voodoo dances and drum circles out in the main square in New Orleans, right? She
Drum
walks
circles?
drum
Yes.
circles. Yes. She's doing full moon gatherings. She probably
Okay.
lit that candle like you. She's making her own tonics and potions that cure ailments, and she's making charms that can ward off enemies or hex your enemies if you're trying to get down
Mm.
that path.
Mm-hmm.
She did some ceremonies that included animal sacrifices, spirit possession, frenzied dancing, and she'd do offerings to voodoo spirits. She would do public curses or hexes on houses of powerful businessmen, white patriarchy, or politicians who angered her or those who sought revenge. So she would be like out loud and proud, and people were like into it. They were like really hot for this. And she's super aware that of her image. She's walking around the square with a snake around her neck all the time.
Oh,
Super hot,
yes.
super
Yeah.
sexy. I kind of wish I had that right now.
You should have gotten a plastic snake.
No, totally. I think I might start wearing a snake to the supermarket and be like, watch
I like
out,
that.
everyone. I know.
Can
right?
you also record reactions? I think we could go in a whole different direction on our YouTube channel.
We could. We really could. So she's very aware of her image and that she is like this mystical figure in everyone's lives.
Right.
And she kind of controlled her image. So she's like a PR woman. I mean, she just has it down, right? So she would walk around with that snake, and that added to the whole mystique about her. And she just had this whole air of mystery. And she always knew everything. Remember, I was telling you about the gossip from the hairdressing days.
Mm-hmm.
So she also has this like underground network of informants that she calls the daughters of Marie Laveau. There's some servants and slaves in these elite households, and they're getting her information also. So
wait.
Yes.
So, okay. This, I think, is so empowering to these women who are completely stripped of their power and their
100%.
humanity to give them this job. And so what you're saying is she's getting them to kind of spy on what's going on, right? Like, so
Totally.
Mrs. Chesterfield was angry with her husband yesterday because she
Right.
smelled perfume on his
Right.
shirt. And then
Right.
Mrs. Chesterfield comes to Marie Laveau, and Marie Laveau's eyes roll back in the back of her head, and she says, I sense there is I'm smelling lilac.
Exactly.
Stop it.
But
Brilliant.
in addition, yes, so it's brilliant because she's totally crafting her image, but she also is truly practicing some voodoo and spiritualism. It's like a
Right.
combo. She's like really has it down. You know what I mean? She's working her
So
brand and she's doing it right.
She's combo legit and combo snake oil saleswoman. We
Yes,
love this for
sort
her.
of.
We
Yeah,
love
but
this
I
for
also
her.
think it like helped enhance her abilities, having a
Sure.
little information. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like sometimes I know there are real psychics or what have you that will hold, you know, a piece of someone's hair or something. I felt like it gave her a connection that allowed her to then go off on her own. Anyway.
Listen, I am not criticizing the powerful Marie Laveau, nor do I want to know what the hell is going to happen if we do. So I am all for it. You do your craft, lady.
Plus, her like knowing everything made everybody like, wow, who is this woman who knows everything
Totally.
about everyone? Like, how does she even do this? Right. So she gets huge and it's amazing, but then she dies. She died, but she does this forever, and she's like amazing. Well, I was kind of giving you like a whole vibe about her, what she's up to.
Yeah.
Anyway, she died in 1881. But her daughter, Marie Laveau II, maintained her voodoo practice and mystical reputation into the early 1900s. And you knew her, like these tales of Marie Laveau have powered through generations, right? And she was just this like badass entrepreneurial woman trying to take care of her kids because she was widowed super young, right? And she was like a hero and a legend. And she's one of the most well-known voodoo practitioners in history.
Wow.
Get it, Marie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Marie.
Yeah,
Yes.
Marie. Get it, Marie.
And we're going to honor you by making our grist for each other.
We are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love Marie. So wait, voodoo is Haitian. Was she Haitian, did you say? No.
No. It said she pulled from a lot of African.
Yeah. So it does come from Africa, and it's big in Haiti, and I think the reason I knew her so well is because she is the one who brought it to the United States, voodoo, which is a practice that a lot of people practice spiritually. Not
And
a lot of
voodoo
people,
is
but
still pretty hot in New
yeah,
Orleans to this day. I
yeah,
feel like she
and
was the
Haiti.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, Marie Laveau,
Love
love
it.
it. Bean, that
Yeah,
was good.
same. Thanks.
That was good. Loved it.
Thanks.
We
Thanks.
love her.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Well, should I tell my story to you?
I mean, what else are we doing here?
Okay. Well, here I go.
That was aggressive. I'm sorry.
You're just being a little. I think you're a little salty that you're dressed up and I'm not. I'm just guessing. I'm using my intuition to tell me
Honestly,
that you're
I
pissed
think
at
I
me.
look amazing, so I'm not even that salty. I can't stop looking at
I
my
know.
makeup.
I think the fact that you're dressed up and I'm not is going to be so delightful for our YouTube watchers because if you just watch our screens juxtaposed to each other, it looks like chaos.
Oh, I was going to say something beautiful.
Which is so good. All right, Bean, are you ready? This is a woeful tale of a ghost who roams the palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, but really, before she was a ghost, her name was Agnes Sampson,
Cute.
and she lived 400 years ago,
Oof.
and she was accused of witchcraft in Scotland. Now, we're going to just pause on August Sampson for a minute. And if you will, we're just going to move over to a parallel story. And I promise I'm going to bring them together. Okay, so this is the story of James. King James, who is actually the son of Mary, Queen of Scots.
Okay.
Mary, Queen of Scots, is the Queen of Scotland during this time in the 1500s. Correct. Now, the reason that you may have heard her name in history is because this is where Bloody Mary comes from.
Spooky. Let's do shots every time I say that.
Let's do it. Did you do Bloody Mary when you were a kid?
Obviously.
You stood?
You stood in the bathroom. It was always the bathroom because you needed a mirror.
Right.
So there was like nowhere else to stand. Were you in a bathroom?
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
No, I don't think I ever did it. I was scared.
Oh, come on. It has to be dark. I wonder what that's all about. And then you would I think you would spin around. I could be mistaken. And you would say Bloody Mary 3 times, and then she would appear.
Yeah.
Spooky.
Did it work?
No, but it was fun
and
scary. Don't you? Your heart would be pounding. You'd be like, oh my gosh.
My friends would go in the bathroom during sleepovers and do it. I'm like, nope, I am not conjuring any ghosts. I already think that I can see them, so I'm good. That's really for another episode. Anyway, so James is her son. Now she is kind of embroiled in this battle with the Queen of England at the time, which is Queen Elizabeth I, Renaissance, Shakespeare, the famous Queen of England. The reason that they are embroiled in this battle is because Mary, Queen of Scots, also had blood ties to the British throne. And so Queen Elizabeth was always kind of whispers in her ears, paranoid and told to fear Mary, Queen of Scots, as someone who could come take the throne over from her. But Mary dies in Scotland, still as the Queen of Scotland. And at 13 months old, her son James takes the throne of Scotland, and he becomes king. He, by the way, we'll come back to this, was raised Protestant, and he became the head of the Presbyterian Church in Scotland in 1584. Right. Not a lot of interest in witches in him, but the interest in witches comes to him after he courts and marries Anne of Denmark. She is the Princess of Denmark, and they are married in 1589. Now, they get married. Okay, so back in the day, when you're courting someone, you're not like sending them text messages, right? You're like writing these long ass letters, and the letters go back and forth, and
you're not
we're in
like
love
WYD, which is what you doing.
Oh,
is that right? Did I do
You're
that
so
right?
hip. You're hip.
I am very hip.
As anyone who's younger than 30 cringes, if anyone's still listening. So they are courting. Now, also, big part of royal history is that a lot of these princesses who were marrying these kings and princes had never met them until their wedding day. So Anne of Denmark is married now to King James of Scotland, and she is making an attempt to get to him from Denmark via ship. She makes 3 attempts to set sail from her home, and she's forced to take shelter in Norway because her fleet is basically like broken down by strong winds and leaks in the ships. So James is like, enough of this. I got to go get my woman. He decides he's going to travel to get Anne. On his way to get Anne, he encounters violent winds, but ultimately he makes it to Norway. Now, here's something to know. Remember in the history section how I was telling you about witch hysteria?
In the history section, I do recall, yes.
Witch hysteria has taken over Denmark at this time.
Oh, no.
So what begins to happen is that when he gets there, she wasn't able to get there because of strong storms. Now he just went through a strong storm. He takes her. They come back to Scotland, and their ship almost sinks because of a strong storm and wind.
Heavens to Betsy.
Correct. So what happens is that the king of Denmark, who is a part of this culture of witch hysteria, decides that this is thanks to witches, and a witch hunt starts to happen in Denmark. And people start to get accused. 3 women go down in Denmark for this. Now, King
can
James.
I interject? Can I ask why? What would the witches' motive be to create windstorms to keep them apart?
I'm going to get there.
Oh,
that's a good question.
Sounds silly, right? Why would they waste their energy?
Well, there is a reason. Now, I actually said something inaccurate. I want to fix it real quick.
Please do.
At this point of his marriage, King James is the next in line to the throne after Elizabeth. So he actually also grows up with this paranoia of Elizabeth and how she is going to take his power away. She does ultimately die, and King James does become the king of Great Britain. That's when this marriage happens. So I just want to be clear. He is paranoid because of everything he's been through. He's taking her back to England because he's now the king of England.
Got it.
Okay. So his father-in-law is like, look, witches are the problem here. He's like, fine. I also agree. I'm now going to be witch paranoid. So he decides that he is going to start looking for witches that are part of this coven of trying to kill King James and his wife. So let's go back to Agnes real quick. Agnes, meanwhile, doesn't know that the king is having so much paranoia and sadness. She is busy with her healing practice. She is serving many, many people in her East Lothian village of Scotland. And women are just generally, at this time, by the way, not well recorded. So we don't know a lot about her or her practice, but we do know that she was a midwife and an herbalist. And we already know that that is the death knell of being
makes
a female
you a witch
at this
then.
time. Yeah. And she's also, if that's not enough, a widow and a mother. She was known as the wise wife of Keith, a woman skilled in traditional healing methods. She used natural remedies to cure illnesses and assist in childbirth. Now, people are starting to get more and more worried about witchcraft. The king is like, we got to find the witch that was behind this besides the 3 that they found in Denmark. Where are we going to look? Clients of Agnes Sampson start to say, well, you know, I went to this woman, she's a widow, and I saw her praying over one of my cousins. And, you know, she was whispering spells, and her prayers are really actually spells. And so prayers easily morphed into, here's Agnes Sampson casting spells on people. And that's how she's actually healing them. It's not through all of the time she spent understanding herbs and how to use them for healing. So
forget that.
Now remember, King James is Protestant. Protestantism is a male-dominated religion, and it's relatively new in Scotland. So think about what it's like to be a mature, respected woman who's won the admiration of the community because you're healing and you're assisting in childbirth. You are a rival to a male-dominated religion of this time. So she ends up being the perfect candidate to get accused. And ultimately, a local servant girl named Gellis Duncan sealed Sampson's fate, and she accused her in 1590 when she started to undergo these confessions. Now, this is the part of the story that gets a little weird.
This is where it gets weird? Yeah.
This is where it gets weird. So Samson is arrested,
Okay.
taken to, the torture chamber. Lots of torture going on, which I'll tell you about in a minute. The tale that's told about her that ultimately gets her arrested is that she was seen to have been at the sea on Morrison's Haven, meeting with a group of other witches. And the witches are said to have been having a meeting with the devil.
Oh, fascinating.
The devil, insert racism here, was said to have appeared to them in the likeness of a black man.
Oh.
And Agnes Sampson was said to have made an image of the king for the devil to enchant to cause the death of King James.
Whoa,
this is why they believe that this had to do with King James, that the devil, remember, King James is the head of the church. So what does the devil want to do?
Get rid of the church.
Correct, because
it was honestly
evil.
It was just a bunch of like chicks hanging out with some black guy by the water, and they're like, wait a second. What is this?
This looks weird.
What's this fuss about?
Well, he is there to fight good, the devil, right? He wants to win because he's evil. Yeah. So that's why King James needs to go.
I like when you quiz me on things like what does the devil want? I was like, I don't know, man. Stop looking at me.
You got it right.
Oh, great.
Excuse me. Where do I learn to do random pop guerrilla style trivia quizzes? Who taught me that?
And honestly, our friendship always depends on it. Sorry.
Like literally no pressure, but you're like, Bean, if we want to be best friends, name the 5 characters in now.
In my head.
Yeah. This random cartoon from 1982. I'm like, go. Oh my God.
Well, the friendship's over. Go. Sorry.
Well, so karma is a bitch. All right. So Agnes Sampson is dragged to the church. Or sorry, it's Holyrood Palace, which is where the king is bringing people in Scotland to examine them and to torture them, basically. And so they are torturing her. She won't confess. They're torturing her. She won't confess. And so they decide to look for the witch's mark. Now, this is taken from the diary of one of the people who was torturing Agnes on behalf of the king. For as much as by due examination of witchcraft and witches in Scotland, it has lately been found that the devil does generally mark them with a privy mark, by which reason the witches have confessed themselves. And, ready? The devil doth lick them with his tongue in some private part of their body, before he doth receive them to be his servants, which mark commonly is given them under the hair in that private part of the body. Therefore, by special commandment, Agnes Sampson had all her hair shaven off in each part of her body and her head until the devil's mark was found upon her privates. And then she immediately confessed whatsoever was demanded of her.
Wait, first of all, the devil is all about cunnilingus, number 1. That's my number 1 takeaway.
Correct.
2, they found a mark down there. That's it?
Yeah, birthmark.
Birthmark on her vag. And they were on like, well, this is the devil's work.
Well, no. I think that what happened, he says, it's once they found the mark that she immediately confessed. But think about how much pain and torture she's going through at this point.
Totally. And they're like shaving, and they're in her private area, which at the time, I mean, even today would be like, stay away, friends, right?
I mean,
and then in the time, it must have been extremely mortifying.
It's assault.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So Agnes Sampson confessed to causing the storm on September 7th of 1589, when ferry boats collided during a summer storm. She made a charm by sinking a dead cat to which her companions had attached parts of dead man into the sea near Leith. The same charm raised the storm and weather effects that threatened the king on his return voyage from Denmark in 1590. She confesses to this. Now, her confessions get a little bit wilder here. And I'm curious what's going on. I don't know if she is just trying to spin a story that will satisfy them so they'll leave her the hell alone. I don't know if she's trying to now, maybe she's decided in her head, listen, if I sound crazy as fuck and I sound super scary, maybe they'll fear me a little bit.
Oh, or maybe they'll just think I'm crazy. Who knows? Anyway, let's not speculate. Continue.
Either way,
Yeah.
her confessions get crazier. So she's hauled before the king after this confession, and now she's relaying this confession to the king, King James himself. She says on Halloween night,
Spooky.
200 witches sailed to a church in North Berwick, a seaside town near Edinburgh. There they danced and sang until the devil appeared in the guise of a man. He proceeded to bend his... Are you ready?
Now that you said bend his and stopped, I am more than intrigued.
He proceeded to bend his bare bottom over the church pulpit.
Woo!
And demanded that the assembled witches kiss his buttocks in sign of duty to him, which they did.
Wow, they kissed the devil's ass.
Do you think that's where kiss my ass comes from? We don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
The world may never know.
She said that after the king sailed abroad in 1589 to marry Anne of Denmark, the North Berwick witches baptized a cat, bound it with dead man's bones, and tossed the animal into the sea, creating the hex that caused severe storms to plague both Anne of Denmark's journey and King James's journey. James and his advisors took, obviously, Samson's confession as a proof of conspiracy against him. As a whole, 70 people were tried, tortured, and executed during these trials, her being one of them. On January 27th, 1591, the charges of witchcraft against her were drawn up with 53 points or articles, so 53 indictments, basically.
Wow.
And Agnes Sampson was taken to the scaffold, burnt at the stake on January 28th, 1591.
Why couldn't they rest with those 3 witches they caught in Denmark? Why wasn't that not enough? Why do we need all the witches?
I think about it. Like, he is just this like insecure king who's trying to maybe prove himself to his father-in-law, who's the king of Denmark. They're saying to him, you witches are real. You're not taking this seriously. And I think he's like, fine, I'm going to show you that I'm also going to go find me some witches and I can burn them at the stake too. I think it's like a pissing contest.
Watch me, bro.
Watch me, bro. Yeah. Who cares about these lives that are going to burn at the stake? Okay, but this is the spooky part.
Ooh.
Legend has it that the naked ghost of a bald Agnes, stripped, shaven, and tortured after being accused of witchcraft, is said to roam the palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh.
Shall we go?
Right?
Ooh, let's go visit spooky places together next October.
That's a great idea.
Thanks.
She also is in current media and pop culture a lot. In fact, she's referenced in the Traitor episode of the American Horror Story Apocalypse. And she's been referenced in BBC TV series Lucy Worsley Investigates. And she's basically now a part of lore thanks to her life and also her pretty insane confessions.
Wow.
Agnes Sampson.
Poor lady. My lady.
Not as
not as revered as Marie Laveau,
or successful.
A force to be reckoned with. She was.
I'm so happy you told that
witch,
story.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that really uplifted us because I just said a lot of depressing things about women getting tortured and burned this whole episode.
I feel sad.
I'm sorry. You're supposed to feel spooky.
Spooky. I do.
Wait, I have a spell, by the way.
Oh. Please share.
I want to share with you. Okay, this spell was shared with me by a witch I know. That it really works.
Wait,
okay?
How come you were all up in my how many witches do you know? And now you're like,
you asked this witch what happened. You said what happened to witches, and I'm like, well, how many do you know? If you don't know that many, that should tell you.
Oh, that was your point. Never mind. Okay, sorry, misunderstood.
Hopefully, our listeners caught that. Okay, so if someone is really bugging the crap out of you and you just want them to stop it, you can put them on ice. So you write their name down on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Fill a container that you can put in the freezer of water. So I use Ziploc bag. Put their name in the water, zip it up, put it in the freezer. You're putting them on ice. You're basically like, stop it. No, thank you. Not over here.
For you? Did it work?
It's worked. It's worked multiple times.
For you?
I swear to you.
I'm going to do it. Nobody's really annoying me right now, but I'm going to do it. Try it and annoy me, somebody. See what happens.
Yeah. Bring it.
Yeah.
We got spells. We got Marie Laveau. We got August Sampson behind us.
I got
Bring it.
black lipstick on.
Well, Bean, it's been
Yeah.
delightful to talk about witches with you today.
I think it's been spooky.
Well, it's been
I'm annoyed with myself.
spooky. Thanks to your beautiful costume.
Thank you.
You really brought it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for doing that.
No, thank you for not doing it. It really
All right,
enhanced my look.
I'll see you next week. We're going to talk about yet another spooky topic. So come back next week to signal for spooky season. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.